Blackpool Pleasure Beach is the home of 10 roller coasters. 6 of those are steel and 4 of those are wood. But which are the best and which are the worst? In all the years that we were Pleasure Beach Experience on this YouTube channel, we never once did a best to worst, worst to best Blackpool Pleasure Beach countdown that came from us. We did it a couple of times where we put it out there and asked everyone who watched us to rank Blackpool Pleasure Beach's coasters. I believe we did that in 2016 and again in 2020. But none of us who do the vlogs on this channel have ever contributed to a Blackpool Pleasure Beach top 10, so to speak. So today, I'm going to do exactly that and run through what is, from, in my opinion, the worst to the best Blackpool Pleasure Beach roller coasters. And I'm going to start from the worst, which is Steeplechase. So in 10th place is Steeplechase. It's Blackpool Pleasure Beach's aerodynamics single rail roller coaster. Some people say it's 3 roller coasters, some people say it's 1 roller coaster. Either or, for me, it is actually the worst roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Basically because I don't find it enjoyable at all. So we'll move straight on from that one. In 9th place, and this one will probably raise a few eyebrows considering what's in 10th place, but in 9th place I'm going with Blue Flyer. Now usually I'd have ranked this in 10th place, but I've actually got some really good memories of this with my little boy. He went on this on his first birthday, he's been on it a few times since, and it's one of those roller coasters that I'll always have a memory with him as it was his first roller coaster. So that's probably the only reason I rank it above Steeplechase, because I don't actually dislike it, so to speak. It's obviously not aimed at people like me, it's not aimed at the majority of season pass holders, but it is the perfect roller coaster for youngsters to start on at Blackpool Pleasure Beach when they go with their parents, or even for those who are just getting into roller coasters for the first time and just want to understand what it's like to go on a roller coaster. So Blue Flyer in 9th place. In 8th place is Avalanche, Blackpool Pleasure Beach's Mack Rides bobsled roller coaster, which opened in 1988, the same year that I was born. Now Avalanche is not a terrible roller coaster. It's actually quite funny because those of us that vlog on this channel, we all disagree about this, but I actually think this is the best of the Mack bobsleigh roller coasters that I've done. That includes doing the one at Europa Park, Heidi Park and Park Asterix. I feel like there's another one somewhere, but I've definitely done at least 4 of them. With Avalanche was the first one that I did. And I've always really thought that out of the ones that I've done, Avalanche just seems to be the best of them all. It just seems to, yes, it's the shortest of them all, but it just seems to pack a bit of a punch, whereas the others are just drawn out and a little bit boring. Obviously the capacity lets it down. Not the most thrilling, but it is a little bit of a laugh. So not the worst coaster, not the best coaster, but the best example of a Mack bobsled roller coaster, in my opinion. In 7th place is the roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach that everybody loves to hate. Oh wait, that could be any of them. Okay, so it's Infusion at 7th. It's Blackpool Pleasure Beach's Vekoma SLC, which originally opened at Southport Pleasureland in 1999. It closed in 2006 when the park was closed down permanently and was relocated to Blackpool Pleasure Beach in time for the main 2007 season. Of course, it replaced Blackpool Pleasure Beach's iconic log flume, which still many of us miss, but there's no doubt about it, Infusion is one of the most popular rides at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Not with enthusiasts, but with the general public. I think it would be fair to say that Infusion is one of the main rides at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. When I say that it's a ride that everybody loves to hate, that pretty much does cover it for Infusion. It's not something that people rave about online. Everybody thinks it's rough, everybody wants it removed, and I don't think it's that bad compared to some of the other SLCs out there. I am not saying it's a great coaster, and I'm not saying it's anywhere near the best coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Not a chance. But I don't think it's as bad as it's made out to be. There's far worse SLC coasters out there. And I always think it's better to ride it when the weather's cold than when the weather's hot for some reason. It just seems to be the way it is with Infusion. It's never that bad to go on it on opening weekend, whether that was a February opening weekend or this year it'll be a March opening weekend or at the end of the season. However, it's always a bit brutal on the lifter when it's windy. Yeah, it's got some good elements to it. It's obviously got questionable profiling, like all the SLCs. Obviously the restraints, very bulky, but it's not the worst SLC, but it's by far nowhere near the best ride at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So Infusion, 7th place. In sixth place is the first double-launched roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That is, of course, Revolution. It's the Arrow Shuttle Loop roller coaster that opened in 1979 at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Once sponsored by Iron Brew, the Revolution packs a punch with airtime going forwards and backwards and has a pretty intense vertical loop as well. It really doesn't do anything else than that. It launches, goes through a loop, stops at the other end, then does all the same thing again backwards. Whilst the Revolution is nowhere near the most thrilling ride at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, it certainly packs a punch with its airtime and the intensity through the loop, forwards and backwards. It's a fun roller coaster and still gets people impressed when they stand and watch it going forwards and backwards, and it always catches people off guard with the airtime moments. In fifth place is Nickelodeon Streak, originally known as Roller Coaster. It's actually the second tallest wooden roller coaster at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Taller than Big Dipper, would you believe? The fun thing about Nickelodeon Streak is, whereas most roller coasters seem to fizzle out the further they go on, I find that Nickelodeon Streak actually gets better the more it goes on. The first two drops are really not that good, but the third drop with its twist is really good, and then you've got the turnaround, and then you've got the airtime hills that follow, and it really comes to life after that third drop. And I think that if Nickelodeon Streak was like the first two drops the whole way through, it'd probably be somewhere near the back of this list, probably somewhere like 7th or 8th. But because it has that exciting third drop, because it has the airtime hills, and because it does have so much airtime on that return leg, it definitely deserves to be in 5th place in my opinion. It's also worth noting as well that Nickelodeon Streak is by far the smoothest roller coaster as far as the woodies go at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Sticking with wooden roller coasters, in 4th place it's the Big Dipper. In 2023, Big Dipper is of course 100 years old, which is something well worth celebrating, and I hope that Blackpool Pleasure Beach go crazy on the celebrations of this massive anniversary. There's not many roller coasters that get to 100 years of operation, so Blackpool Pleasure Beach, in my opinion, should be celebrating this so much. So what's good about Big Dipper? It's got airtime, it's got that proper classic wooden roller coaster feel without being too rough, and it's just a proper throwback to when you went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach as a child with your parents and you went on the ride, and it's got that single lap bar, and you used to go on it with one of your parents and you'd be like this far away from the lap bar and you'd be like, oh wow, and you'd get so much airtime. And then when you get older, you go on it with your friends as a teenager, then you get older like now into your 20s and 30s and 40s, and it still maintains that fun, daftness and just outright brilliance that is, in my opinion, very underrated. I so often read comments about, oh, Blackpool Pleasure Beach should get rid of Big Dipper, they should RMC it. Rubbish. Big Dipper is brilliant, and I think everyone should appreciate it for what it actually is. 3rd place is Icon, Blackpool Pleasure Beach's second double launch roller coaster that opened in 2018. I have to be honest, when Icon did open in 2018, I was one of the people that hyped it up and said, this is the best ride in the country, and I was quite happy to say that online in vlogs and really push that narrative. But I think from late 2019 I started to think actually it's not the best ride here, never mind in the country, and it sort of slipped down to 2nd place. And then in 2022, when the Grand National reopened following quite an extensive retrack, it was like actually it's going to drop down to 3rd place now. So even though I think Icon is a great roller coaster for Blackpool Pleasure Beach, it's packed with airtime, it can be really intense towards the end of the day, and it is a really good roller coaster. It's just not quite the best for me at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. In 2nd place, it's the best wooden roller coaster in the UK, and that is of course the Grand National. Will it hold on to that title in 2023? That remains to be seen. I think it was great having the retracking work done on it for 2022, but it has got some tough competition this year, especially with Megaphobia being retracked by the Gravity Group at Oakwood. Will that now take the crown as best woody in the country? That is something that is going to be open for debate for the next few months until everybody actually gets on Megaphobia. Of course, that's for another subject. So why is the Grand National 2nd when so many people don't like it these days? For me, the Grand National, like Big Dipper, it's almost like a throwback to when I was younger and I used to go on it as a teenager, and The lap bar again is like this, far away from my leg, because I'm sat next to my dad on it, who at the time is a lot bigger than me. And it's like, I am going to get so much airtime on this ride. And I did. And I remember going down the first drop on it and just being like, what on earth is going on this roller coaster? Why is it flinging me out of my seat like this? And it was just an incredible experience. And then as I get older, going on it with friends, and it's still got that airtime. And okay, they ruined it a little bit when the current trains went on it. It's never been the same since 2006, when it got the, I'm not going to call them new trains because they've been on there for the best part of 17 years now. But the trains it's currently got, they're definitely not as good as the trains it used to have, which were like Big Dipper's current trains with an individual lap bar. They have taken some of the enjoyment out of the ride, but there's no doubt about it, the Grand National is still an airtime machine. It's not as brutal and rough as everyone likes to say online. And I think, like with the Big Dipper, yes, retrack it, look after it, keep it going, try and avoid it becoming a brutal roller coaster like it became in 2020 and 2021. But it is a great roller coaster, and it just misses out on first place, just because last year I enjoyed going on the Grand National at Blackpool Pleasure Beach more than any other roller coaster that I went on. And in first place, if you haven't already guessed it, I will say what it is. It is, of course, the big one, originally known as the Pepsi Max Big One. And if you haven't already guessed, I am a fan of this roller coaster. We've got wheels from it there. There's a bit of track of it behind me here. And there's a roller coaster carriage from the big one outside in the garden. There is still nothing like that first drop in the UK, never mind at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That first drop on the big one is just incredible, especially in the back row, on the back left seat. The big one has no airtime apparently. I am sorry, that is nonsense when you sit in the back left seat, especially on the first drop. Okay, the rest of the layout, it lacks in airtime, especially compared to its older brother Magnum XL 200, but the big one is not completely without airtime. There is parts of it where there is airtime, not enough, but it's not completely without it, as it gets suggested many a time. And whilst most roller coaster enthusiasts love to hate the big one, I think it's probably still one of the most popular roller coasters in the UK, whether that's from people in Blackpool Pleasure Beach, watching from the seafront, or just people talking about Blackpool Pleasure Beach. There's no doubt about it. It's one of the most popular rides in this country, probably the most iconic ride in the country. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion, but for me it deserves to be at number one, Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Now I know most people think that Icon is the best ride at Blackpool Pleasure Beach these days, but I'm really interested to know what everybody watching rates the Blackpool Pleasure Beach coasters as. What's worst, what's best, what's in the middle? Please let us know in the comments below. I do always read the comments, I always reply to them, and even if you think I'm talking absolute nonsense, it'll still be good to have a chat in the comments about what everyone thinks is the best roller coasters at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the like button. It really does help the channel grow, and it has helped us a lot in the last few videos with people hitting the thumbs up and the thumbs down button. It makes a massive difference and really helps the channel. Of course, if you don't like what I've said, you're more than welcome to hit the thumbs down button, but please let me know why in the comments section below. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be a vlog.